All right, so it's been another day. I let it sit and dry for a while. I did about 3 more spray coats with our gloss black. The sides are now very smooth. There are a few little nicks, but that's, you know what, I'm gonna be okay with that. Um, as much as I can get it to be perfect, that's kind of where I'm gonna get it. Anyways, so the next step now is we're gonna take our drill, and I'm gonna show you. So we're gonna just kind of drill in underneath here. So let me turn this up for a second so you guys can see what I'm talking about. So we got these little peg things that I talked about in the last video, and I'm gonna put them basically right there, right on each little corner. So you see, it's not gonna stand up very much. It's just a little bit, but I think these are gonna be really good to kind of keep the board elevated just a touch. So what I need to do now is I need to go in and put a little marker there, and then I'm gonna drill it out with a drill, and then we'll screw these in. So all right, so yeah, if you look, we have our little feet in. This one I think is a little too far out, but you know what, it's okay. It's in the back side, I'm not gonna worry about it. This one is probably more what I was going for, where it's like very clean down here, can't hardly even feel it. So, but yeah, I mean, the front looks good. This is really what I care about in terms of those looks. So you can't even see them hardly. I love that they blend in, they're right there. And all this does, right, again, is just give me a little bit of a working room where I can put my fingers under it and just kind of lift up as needed. So, you know, it is a little short, I will admit. It's a little bit short, but I think it's going to be fine. Realistically, I may have gone with a little bit taller ones, but the black works for me, and it's going to be nice. So, but that's that. The next step is getting some felt. So we'll come back after that is done. I'll show you what I did.
All right, so quick update. So we have gone and done, like I think I showed you guys in the last one, we did the little feet down here. Turn it up so you can see it. So those are cool. Those are set in. Those are nice. There's a paintbrush down there apparently. And then the next step we did was we actually went and got some fabric, and I have gone ahead and put fabric in here now, just as a little word of warning, so it'll stay. So you can see in these corners here, there's like some white happening. What that is I actually put a little super glue in the corners, a little of this super glue thin that I got at Hobby Lobby, I believe. So anyways, don't do that, because I also put Elmer's glue in here, and I think the water in that glue messed with the super glue, and it dried in such a weird way. There was a lot of fumes. Whoops, you see it's not really like perfect. There's still a little bit of white happening in here, but mostly to combat that, I've taken just a little bit of oil and just put some on these spots, and also up on the sides here to hopefully deal with that. So I'm hoping that doesn't come back to bite me. So also the second thing, I've also put some felt underneath it. I was gonna go with a different color, but my girlfriend suggested black, and I think that's a good idea. So it doesn't really make a lot of noise anymore. Sounds really cool when it slides in and out. I debated putting a piece on the back there, but I figured it's gonna be okay. It's not a huge deal. And honestly, I didn't even realize, but when I looked inside, it's not super secure back there. So the next step, or rather, it's not super flush. So the next step is we're gonna put on our buildings. So I've gone ahead and taken this kit right here, and I've just built. I built basically this piece, and I built this piece, and I will show you them right here. So here's the one building, and then here's the other building. Now I have gone through and I have destroyed them a little more, forgive the cat, than normal. And so this one's gonna be cracked just like this. I wanted one that was kind of like split in the middle. I thought that was kind of cool. So I'm gonna do something like that, like right there, and then this one is gonna be something like that. So again, I'm not gonna go crazy with the buildings and the stuff on here. I want to keep it pretty minimal so I can put all my stuff on there, and I'll show you that when we come back. We'll probably put some dirt and rubble around all these buildings, And then we'll tape off the edges here to make sure that when we hit it with some airbrush or something, we're not going too crazy, we're not messing up our edges. And I think that'll be mostly where it's at. All right, so here's a little quick update before we put some paint on this thing. Obviously, we still need the glue here to dry, but yeah, I've gone in, I've added a bunch of rubble into this area. I've added a couple little rubble piles around just to kind of hopefully blend in a little bit so it doesn't look like it's just, you know, totally out in the open. These buildings are just crumbled on their own. So obviously, like I said, the glue is drying here. When I was doing it initially, for some reason, I thought this building would go to the back here, and then this one will be up in the front. And I messed up and I glued it down, and turns out this is the front because I talked about putting a nameplate here. So that's still the plan. I think it's still going to work out okay. But yeah, like I said, this one's supposed to be kind of towards the back, but you know what, it's going to be fine. I have room up here now to put dudes and models, which means that this is going to kind of blend into the background and be okay. I do want to talk about real quick, so putting all this glue, or all this sand and stuff down, so it's a little bit tricky, and obviously I didn't have enough super glue, but what I did have was some super glue thin. Now, this stuff is pretty much like water when it comes in the super glue. So I would like to put down a lot of stuff here and then just casually like drip some super glue in. Just kind of be careful though, because it does have a tendency to steam or put off a bunch of vapors if you're not careful. So you can see it like on the building down here, right where all this whiting is happening. That's from the super glue putting off vapors. So just be a little careful, but that's what I use to basically secure all this in. This is not going anywhere for sure. Same thing over here. And all these little piles here, I would put in like some cork and rubble, and then I would drip some super glue in here, and then just sprinkle some sand on to hopefully give it, you know, a cohesive look and make it look like a rubble pile. So yeah, next step is we're gonna tape all the sides off here. I got some masking tape that I'm gonna use, and then we'll come back. We're gonna spray it. I'm thinking we're gonna go gray first, but we'll see how that works out. I'm afraid that if I mess up this side, I got to be careful here, so I don't know how much I want to tape off or how, you know, how I want to do this all, but I'll figure something out. We may do it with an airbrush, may just do it with a rattle can. I think it'll work out. All right, so we are back. This is the step right before we're about to paint everything. So I've gone through, I have put down these buildings. I've added the sand, a combination of basically sand, our little sprue bits, and some cork pieces in here. I took some very thin super glue. This is what I used right here, and I basically just dripped it over these areas, and it's sealed this in super hard, so this is not going anywhere. That's super in place. I've done it on these little bits too. These little streaks right here are actually I went in and I added a little bit of extra super glue just to make sure the same super glue thin, just to make sure things were secure, so I know that certain rocks are not going to come up and whatnot. I think that's mostly it. I'm gonna start painting it. I've taped everything off. Yes, it may be a little bit paranoid in terms of I was just gonna tape this top part off, but then I thought, you know what, no, let's just go ahead and tape the whole thing off. Better to be safe than sorry in this circumstance. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our primer. This is the Uniform Gray from Army Painter, and I'm gonna spray this over here. This is our base color. These buildings are going to become like a light tan color that'll get washed down. Same with this one. I don't really bother with these too much. So yeah, like I said, I don't really bother with these too much in terms of washing them down and stuff, or putting another color on here, because it's going to all kind of blend in a little bit. So yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and spray it, and then we will be back and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, we're starting to look like a real thing here. So basically I've done the Uniform Gray across everything. I kind of gave it 2 coats just to ensure that it was nice and good. And then we came in with this Testor's Spray Flat Dark Aircraft Gray. I hit these buildings with it, so you can kind of see a little better. Let's go on this side a little bit. So that's the color that's on the bottom here, and then it'll fade up. And the top color is Skeleton Bone from Army Painter once again. I was going to do this with an airbrush, but actually this just seemed quicker, and I don't really mind this kind of overspray. I can kind of blend it out, and it looks really good. So I'm gonna let all this dry, and our next step will be putting on some washes and doing some dry brushing and that, and then maybe some powders, and that'll be fun. So that'll be the next step. So fast forward a little bit, we are back at the hobby desk. So I've gone ahead and I've sprayed everything down. I've painted these buildings up. I've gone in, I've hit some wash on here. I've blacked out the buildings. The main reason I did that is because it does look good on the table, and I don't really want to paint any reflections on the inside or anything like that. I painted the tops green and then did some dry brushing over them. I just, I wanted to pick a color that's going to look good with the beige here, and I think that looks kind of cool. But yeah, so I've gone in, I hit all this stuff with a dry brush of Celestia Gray, which is what I do on all my bases. And then I have come in and just added a bunch of weathering powder. So I picked up this set a long time ago. These are just some Secret Weapon miniature powders. And I normally only use these two on my bases, the clay brown and the red brick. But I thought some extra variety with the two different grays back here would help too. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I wanted to take a moment and pause for a second though, because this board looks okay, but I'm trying to figure out what exactly to do to match my bases and like, am I anywhere close? So I've gone ahead and pulled out a few of my models here, and I kind of just want to set up a little bit of what I'm looking at. So like, that's the big boy. Here's a couple of little dudes running around, just kind of getting some ideas of where I might want to set them up on the board. So if I do something like that, does that look okay? I think that's okay. It's not too bad. I'm not going to add a bunch of rubble in here. I already decided. I'm already past that stage. But I wanted to kind of see how my bases line up to the table. And right now, honestly, what it's looking like, and you can kind of see it better on this one. So there's a little bit of brown in this base that I want to add to here. So I think I'm going to take the airbrush and just a little bit, not a whole lot. And then the other thing I wanted to do is also, you can see it on the night base better, but I wanted to go back and add a little bit more dry brush of the Celestia Gray. I think I lost a good bit of it when I put down the powders and whatnot. You can see it on the buildings, but in the rubble itself, I want to go back and add a little bit more. And I think that'll be really quick, and that'll pretty much do it for the display overall. I think it'll look pretty hot. And that's gonna pretty much wrap it up. Then the next step after that, I'm gonna seal it down. Unfortunately, it's raining today, so I'm probably not gonna want to go outside and spray it, since I do want to do it outside. But I'm gonna take my airbrush and I'm gonna blow kind of a black fade around the edge. I wasn't initially gonna do this, but I think it's really gonna help it tie in better, and I think it'll look okay. But yeah, so there's where we're at right now, and I will come back to you when we finish it up, when we take all the tape off, and it's going to look super awesome. All right, so anyways, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in a little bit.